If you hear talk of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and think, I really have no idea how that works, you're definitely not alone, myself included, don't know anything about it. But we are on a mission to equip you with a basic working knowledge so that you can feel more confident as this technology becomes more common in our world. So all this week on To The Point, we are diving deep into crypto. And tonight, Becca Hobbecker breaks down really two simple things. What is cryptocurrency and why should we care?
What is cryptocurrency?
Well, cryptocurrency is digital money that can be used as a secure form of payment. Nice and easy.
So cryptocurrency is just a currency like a dollar or a peso or a euro. The difference between cryptocurrency and the dollar that you'd have in your wallet is that it only exists digitally. They don't make any paper copies. And it's not issued by a government. It's issued by the currency. So if somebody's willing to accept it to trade and barter for goods, it works just like a dollar or a euro.
You're essentially purchasing something that is completely digital. And honestly, today, most of us don't transact in cash anymore, right? We do have paper money that exists, but most of us use credit cards or we make transfers with our online bank accounts or something like Venmo.
In the financial world, we actually think of cryptocurrency as a new financial asset class. You might be familiar with other asset classes like real estate, stocks and bonds.
What about all the different kinds, like Bitcoin?
Think of crypto as the umbrella. There are lots of pieces under that umbrella. There's Bitcoin, there's Ethereum, there's Monero.
In the same way that there are sedans. Toyota makes Camrys, which is an example of a sedan. But sedans are also still motor vehicles. So Bitcoin is a specific application, a specific coin type, whereas there are certainly other types of cryptocurrencies.
So all of these cryptocurrencies are separate, and it's all technology based.
How do these cryptocurrencies work?
All of these, whether we're talking about Bitcoin, Ethereum, Shiba Coin, you might have heard about NFTs or non-fungible tokens. They all really use the same technology. We call it a distributed ledger. We're used to like a centralized ledger where I can keep track of things. So if I were to ask you, how much money do you have? You could probably answer the question. You'd have to call your bank and they would tell you this is what's in your account. With something like Bitcoin, there's not one person who keeps track of what your balance is. There's a whole network of, we call them miners, log transactions so you can keep track of your balance. So there's not one source that tracks it. That broad family is called a blockchain. Distributed ledgers and blockchains, they're like motor vehicles. And then cryptocurrency is like sedans, and Bitcoin is like a Camry, but it's all part of the same family of things that will absolutely change our world in the next 10 years.
So why should I care? How does this affect me?
Why would somebody care? When we have these type of distributed ledgers, we can keep track of things that we don't currently keep track of. There's an interesting pilot that Alfa Romeo is rolling out with their new SUVs out of the UK to digitally keep track of all the maintenance records. So if you go to buy a used car, you wouldn't just take the other person's word for it that they've done all their maintenance. There would be an independently verified record for all of the upkeep and maintenance that Alfa Romeo had gone through. And so when you bought the used car, you would also buy the history. There's a lot of other types of things that we don't really have big systems to keep track of the data, and something like a distributed ledger or a blockchain is an interesting technology that will allow us to do that in the future.
The future's here. We're in the future. We're in the future. Cryptocurrency. What are we talking about? Okay, but are there ethical issues with this?
For sure. You know, that Sac State professor said we'll start seeing that blockchain technology used to track things like everything from driving records to house titles, but even potentially things like employee productivity. He says now is the time to be asking the ethical questions that we should be exploring, like what types of information are we as a society comfortable with letting, be tracked, and then
we're already bombarded with that online,
yes.
Cookies.
Yeah, exactly, with ads, exactly. And then, of course, what kinds of decisions are we okay with being made using that information? Yeah. And he says we, in the past, have a history of diving headlong into technology without examining these ethical questions first. So we should be talking about them now before we get into real trouble down the line.
Yeah, I agree with that.